Hey guys, so today's job we're just going to be replacing the front hubs in the car. When I first test drove the car, I noticed at the front end upon turning, especially to the left, it was making a little bit of a constant harmonic. It did have tyres from 2013 on it, which were dry rotted on the corners. So when I first took it for the pre-purchase inspection, I said, can you please check out the hubs? Front wheel drive, hubs are expensive. It could just be the tyres though, because they're old, and within 30 seconds the guy at the shop in Bangkok's like, oh no, it's just the tyres. And of course it wasn't just the tyres, so it does need a new pair of hubs as well. You know, if you're going to keep a car for a few years, 2 or 3 years, hubs is something you've kind of got to expect to do, but you know, hubs on top of struts, on top of all this other stuff, yeah, starting to get expensive. So I'll show you what we picked up and what we paid for it, and let's get stuck into it. So we've got some hubs from FAG. Now FAG are a manufacturer out of Europe. They make OEM parts, so you know, any company that generates OEM parts is good enough for me. Now these one were 2,400 baht each, so that was 5,800 baht. I think total delivered. Considering the fact that genuine Volvo ones were 11,000 baht a corner, these were much cheaper, so we're going to be throwing these ones in and see how it goes. So quite easy, wheels off, grab something to hang the brakes off. You want to undo along here the top tyre rod or steering arm, bottom one. Also undo the sway bar mount there as well, and then obviously on the front centre hub lock, and also this little nut in here which holds the caliper on. Get them all off. The 4 bolts that hold the knuckle on and the dust cap onto the rotor, and the hubs inside there. You'll also notice the little retainer that we made. So this was what we had machined up for the wheels for the inside, so that's actually been properly machined. So that one's got a taper in it as well, so this will last forever. Oops. Yeah, and you hear in there, yeah. So when you're driving straight, you'll notice about 80 kilometers an hour, as you start to turn, it'll start to make a sound like whoop, 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 whoop. That's how you know your hub's a cactus. So first reassembly is take the hub, bolt onto the back of the knuckle with the 4 bolts you undid earlier, bust them back on nice and tight. There's torque specs in the manual. Another handy hint whenever you're working on cars is little metal hooks which you find in the kitchenwares and all that, just to hold the calipers on. So 4 bolts on the knuckle, lower control arm bolt on the bottom. Needless to say, when you're doing up the 4 bolts that join the hub up to the knuckle, always do them up diagonally when you're tightening them at the end. That way you get nice and even torque across all 4, and you get a nice flat surface and no nasty surprises. Next step, lower control arm down, CV's in place. Needs a little bit of gentle persuasion. So 4 hands are better than 2, so I pulled the strut and the caliper out of the way while Noom got the CV in. Another thing to note is the bolts will only go in from the forward to the aft. Don't try and put them in from the aft forward, you'll have a whole heap more trouble getting them in that direction. So get one of your partners to wiggle it in as you put it through, and then you'll be able to hammer it through to the other side, and then the strut will be mounted back in. Rattle on one side, socket on the other. Easy as that. Also be careful not to tear the boot while you're putting it in. Otherwise you'll be waiting on more parts. Yep. Good stuff. So we're on the way. Center cap back in, or hub retainer, I'm not quite sure what they call it in Europe. And then obviously once you've done that, toe arm, steering rack arm, also your sway bar mount, and then you're good to go. And obviously caliper back on and job done. Bump steer lock in here, so do this up last. So that's a little piece that hangs down there. Put a bit of grease on the end of there that stops the steering lock. Put that on last, otherwise you won't be able to get it off there because it fails. Yep, and then tighten up the calipers and tighten up the nuts on the rotor, and one side done. So yep, nice and easy. And another thing I always do if I'm buying a second-hand car, if I've got the wheels off and the wheel nuts off, a bit of diesel, a little bit of hole in the top, onto the threads, and give all the threads a good scrub with a wire brush. If you have a look here, compared to they can have gunk and all that in there, and you just always want to, you know, if it's not your car or if you bought a second-hand car, always give it that little bit of extra TLC. Then if you want to get really fancy, you can also give the top a bit of a bang over with the wire brush and some chrome polish, metal polish, so it gets rid of all the debris on the outside as well, and you've got some clean wheel nuts. So that makes it easier for them to get on, and more importantly can also make it easy for them to get off, because these are picking up road grime and dust all the time when they're going in and out, sitting around workshops. So give your nuts a bit of love, lads. Another small thing to do is when you tighten up braces, all the nuts, put a couple marks on them so you know where they are, so you can see if they're moving around on you.